Everything began with a desperate 911 call, a cry for help that unveiled a horrifying tragedy in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Help me! My father! My father killed someone. He killed Christina and Suzanne.
Operator.
Where are you? Stay calm. Give me the address.
Address of the house in St. Petersburg. Please hurry. There's blood everywhere. Christina is dead, so is Suzanne. My father is bleeding in the bathroom.
Operator.
All right, stay calm. Police are on their way. Are you safe? Is the perpetrator still there?
My father. He's hurt, but I don't know what he'll do. I'm so scared.
The girl stayed in the front yard, away from the house, until police arrived minutes later. She repeatedly sobbed and said to the officers as they approached,
Why did Dad do this? Why?
The case was identified as follows. 2 women, a mother and daughter, were brutally murdered in their own home. Betty Suzanne Donzero and her daughter Christina Donzero were stabbed to death, their lives cut short by an unimaginable act of violence. Christina's body was found dismembered, a gruesome detail that left the community in shock. Police identified the perpetrator as Kirk Heisel Jr., Christina's live-in boyfriend, who had shared a life with her for many years. According to detectives, Heisel confessed to the crimes, not only admitting to the murders but also revealing a chilling plan to kill the entire family. To understand the full extent of how serious this case was, let's follow the investigation to uncover the shocking details of this case in Pinellas County. At approximately 10:15 a.m. on April 12th, the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call from Kirk Heisel Jr.'s daughter. She reported that her father had killed his girlfriend, Christina Donzero, and her mother, Betty Suzanne Donzero, at their home in St. Petersburg. Her statement was clear and urgent.
My father killed them. He killed Christina and her mother.
Without hesitation, officers rushed to the scene, a seemingly ordinary residential house in a quiet neighborhood. Upon entering the home, officers encountered a blood-soaked scene. In the master bedroom, they found the body of Christina Donzero. She had been stabbed multiple times in the chest and abdomen, with deep and savage wounds, the stench of blood permeating the house. Her body was dismembered, with her arms severed and lying on the floor alongside other body parts that had also been cut off, indicating the perpetrator had acted after her death with extreme brutality. Blood pooled across the floor, and sharp tools, including a kitchen knife, were found near the body, believed to be the murder weapon. Continuing their search, officers proceeded to the garage and discovered the body of Betty Suzanne Donzero. She had been suffocated with duct tape wrapped around her mouth and nose, causing her to asphyxiate before being stabbed at least twice in the chest. The position of her body in the garage suggested the perpetrator may have dragged her from the common living area to conceal or complete the crime. Bloodstains and drag marks on the floor supported this hypothesis. In the bathroom, officers found Kirk Heisel Jr., the primary suspect. He was in critical condition, with deep cuts on his wrists and chest, clearly self-inflicted. Heisel was still conscious but weak, muttering to the officers, "I tried to kill myself." The wounds indicated he had attempted suicide after the murders, possibly out of remorse or to avoid capture. Heisel was rushed to a hospital in St. Petersburg, where he was treated and stabilized before being questioned. The police turned to question the direct witness, Heisel's daughter, who had reported the incident. During the interrogation, she was still in a state of fear and panic, crying uncontrollably.
Now please calm down and tell us in more detail about the scene and what you saw,
the officer said in a calm voice. She testified that she returned home on the morning of April 12th after spending the night at a friend's house. She frequently moved between her mother's house and her father's home in St. Petersburg. According to her statement, she planned to pick up some school supplies at the house before heading to school. She hadn't received any unusual messages from her father or Christina, and she had no reason to suspect anything serious was happening. As she approached the house, she noticed the front door was slightly ajar, which was unusual because Christina typically locked it carefully. She entered the house, calling out loudly, "Christina? Dad? Is anyone home?" But received no response. The house was eerily silent, with only the ticking of a wall clock breaking the stillness. As she passed through the living room, she heard faint moaning coming from the bathroom at the end of the hallway. She described in her testimony that the sound was like gasping or groaning, which made her feel uneasy. On her way to the bathroom, she accidentally stepped in a trail of fresh blood on the wooden floor, stretching from the master bedroom to the hallway. She stopped, horrified, and realized something was terribly wrong. I saw blood on the floor and my heart stopped. I knew something horrible had happened. She approached the door of the master bedroom, where she often saw Christina in the mornings. The door was slightly open, and she pushed it gently to look inside. The scene inside made her scream and stumble back. Christina Donzero's body lay on the floor near the bed, with multiple stab wounds to her chest and abdomen. Blood had soaked the carpet, and one part of her body, specifically her right arm, was severed, lying a few meters away from the rest of her body. She was so shocked that she couldn't enter the room, standing there trembling and trying to suppress nausea. After a few seconds of panic, she remembered the moaning from the bathroom. She ran down the hallway, opened the bathroom door and saw her father, Kirk Heisel Jr., slumped against the wall, blood pouring from cuts on his wrists and chest. Heisel was still conscious but very weak, his eyes glassy. She recounted that her father looked at her and muttered, "Daughter, I'm sorry. I didn't want you to see this." She frantically asked, "What did you do? Where's Christina? What's happening?" But Heisel only shook his head and continued to groan. In her panic, she suddenly realized she hadn't seen Suzanne, who was usually in the living room or kitchen when visiting. She remembered that Suzanne was scheduled to visit Christina that day. She ran to the common living area, calling out, "Suzanne, where are you?" There was no response, but she noticed another trail of blood leading from the living room to the garage door. Despite her fear, she opened the garage door and immediately saw Betty Suzanne Donzero's body lying on the concrete floor. She had duct tape tightly wrapped around her mouth and nose, with 2 clear stab wounds on her chest. She described in her testimony, "I saw her lying there, motionless, with tape on her face. I knew she was dead. I was completely frozen, and then I ran out to the front yard screaming for help, but no neighbors were nearby. I grabbed my phone from my bag and called the police." The interrogation revealed that Heisel and Christina had previously argued. This may have led to the conflict that resulted in the crime. To gain a clearer understanding of the case, we need to examine the details of the victims and the perpetrator. Betty Suzanne Donzero, Suzanne. 75 years old, mother of Christina Donzero. She was a beloved family member, frequently visiting her daughter at the St. Petersburg home. Suzanne lived with her husband, Christina's father, and had another son. She was known for her gentle nature and deep love for her family. Christina Donzero, 34 years old, daughter of Suzanne, living with her boyfriend Kirk Heisel Jr. in a St. Petersburg home. Christina was described as a vibrant woman with a long-term relationship with Heisel, spanning many years. She was a bridge between her mother and the family, often welcoming Suzanne to the house. Kirk Heisel Jr., the perpetrator, Christina's live-in boyfriend, approximately 40 years old. Heisel had a daughter from a previous relationship who called 911 to report the crime. He had been accused of domestic violence in his early 20s, but the case was resolved through a diversion program, leaving no significant criminal record. Heisel had no public record of mental illness, but his self-inflicted injuries after the crime suggested possible psychological distress. Christina and Heisel had lived together for many years, sharing a home in St. Petersburg. Their relationship appeared stable from the outside, but investigators suspected underlying tensions, possibly related to domestic violence or personal conflicts. Suzanne, Christina's mother, frequently visited her daughter, placing her in an unfortunate situation when the crime occurred. There is no specific information about the relationship between Suzanne and Heisel, but she was likely not the primary target of the murder plan, rather a coincidental victim. After stabilizing at the hospital, Kirk Heisel Jr. was interrogated by detectives from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. During the interrogation, Heisel provided a detailed confession, admitting to the full extent of his crimes. He confirmed that he had killed Christina Donzero and Betty Suzanne Donzero, describing how he attacked them. According to his confession, Heisel admitted to stabbing Christina in the bedroom after a heated argument, though he did not specify the details of the dispute. After killing Christina, he discovered Suzanne in the living room and attacked her to silence her, using duct tape to suffocate her before stabbing her. Heisel revealed an even more chilling detail. He had initially planned to kill the entire Donzero family, including Suzanne's husband and Christina's brother. but was unable to carry out the plan because his daughter discovered the crime and called the police. He also stated, with a tone devoid of remorse, that if released, he would do it again. This confession, recorded and documented in the case file, became crucial evidence against Heisel. When asked about his motive, Heisel provided vague answers. He mentioned tensions in his relationship with Christina, including arguments over finances and family responsibilities, but offered no specific details. Detectives suspected domestic violence as a factor, based on Heisel's past accusation of violence, but there was no clear evidence of prolonged abuse in the current relationship. Based on the confession and collected evidence, investigators hypothesized about the conflict leading to the crime. Christina and Heisel had lived together for years, but their relationship was not entirely harmonious. Interviews with friends and neighbors revealed that the couple frequently argued, primarily over money and responsibilities related to raising Heisel's daughter. A friend of Christina reported that she had complained about Heisel becoming increasingly irritable and controlling in the months leading up to the crime, though she did not report specific instances of violence. On the day of the crime, an argument between Christina and Heisel erupted in the morning, possibly related to Christina's desire to end the relationship. Heisel, in a fit of rage, grabbed a knife from the kitchen and attacked Christina. Suzanne, who had come to visit her daughter that morning, was inadvertently present and became a victim when she attempted to intervene or flee. Investigators believe the dismemberment of Christina's body was an attempt to conceal the crime, but Heisel was interrupted when his daughter returned home and discovered the scene. There is no evidence to suggest Suzanne was the primary target. She appears to have been killed to eliminate a witness, and the act of suffocating her with duct tape indicates Heisel wanted to ensure she could not call for help. The main conflict seems to have stemmed from the strained relationship between Heisel and Christina, with accumulated pressures over time leading to an eruption of violence. Investigators conducted a thorough examination of the crime scene, collecting evidence. A blood-stained kitchen knife was found near Christina's body, bearing Heisel's fingerprints. A second blood-stained knife was found in the garage, matching the wounds on Suzanne's body. The roll of duct tape used to suffocate Suzanne was found in the garage, also bearing Heisel's fingerprints. Blood from both victims was found on Heisel's clothing and hands, directly linking him to the crime. Investigators reviewed Christina and Heisel's phones, discovering a series of tense text messages between them the night before the crime, related to sharing living expenses. While no messages explicitly threatened murder, they indicated escalating conflict. Kirk Heisel Jr. was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder under Florida law for premeditated and malicious killings. Investigators are also considering a charge of corpse desecration due to the dismemberment of Christina's body, though no final decision has been made on adding this charge. With physical evidence, his confession, and witness testimony, the case is considered airtight, with a high likelihood of conviction. Heisel is currently held in a hospital, awaiting transfer to the Pinellas County Jail once his health stabilizes. He has had an initial court appearance, where he was informed of the charges and assigned a public defender, as he could not afford private counsel. At the upcoming formal arraignment, Heisel may plead guilty or not guilty by reason of insanity, though the latter is unlikely due to the lack of clear evidence of mental illness. If the case goes to trial, it could last 12 to 24 months, especially if prosecutors pursue the death penalty. Florida supports capital punishment, and with the aggravating factor of multiple murders, Heisel faces a significant risk of a death sentence, particularly in the conservative Pinellas County. However, Heisel's defense attorney may seek a plea deal for a guilty plea in exchange for life imprisonment, avoiding a lengthy and painful trial for the victim's family. Christina and Suzanne left behind a devastated family, including Suzanne's husband, Christina's father, and her brother. They plan to hold a funeral for both on May 9th, a day to honor and bid farewell to their loved ones, taken so cruelly. The St. Petersburg community has also been deeply affected, with many expressing shock and grief over the loss. Meanwhile, investigators continue to search for Heisel's motive. Was there a specific event that triggered his actions, or was this the result of a long-standing psychological issue? These questions remain unanswered, but will play a critical role in shaping the trial or plea negotiations. The double murder in St. Petersburg serves as a painful reminder of the fragility of life and the dangers that can lurk within seemingly close relationships. Christina Donzero and Suzanne Donzero were brutally robbed of their lives, leaving an unfillable void in the hearts of their family and community. Kirk Heisel Jr., once a part of their lives, now faces 2 counts of first-degree murder, with the possibility of life imprisonment or even the death penalty. As the case progresses, questions about motive, mental health, and justice will continue to arise. Will Heisel plead guilty to avoid the death penalty, or will he face a protracted trial, forcing the victim's family to relive their pain? Regardless of the outcome, this case will remain a scar in St. Petersburg's history, a story of loss, violence, and the pursuit of justice in the shadow of tragedy. The case concludes here for now, a story of a fateful day that changed everything. We will continue to follow developments and provide the latest updates as Christina and Suzanne's family seek solace and justice in the difficult days ahead.